because we're literally in the heart of the community. We're at the edge of perhaps the old Stenhousemuire, but Stenhousemuire Larbert's kind of expanded and connected, so we're kind of right in the centre, right in the heart of the community. But our philosophy has always been to make sure that what we do as a club is at the heart of the community. And we always saw ourselves doing that by delivering a lot of community programmes in terms of the football programmes. And we reached out to girls, we tried to push forward girl football, young kids as well that perhaps weren't at the age yet where they could join football teams. We wanted to make sure there was something for them. So we're doing a lot out there for the community in the football sense. But perhaps there's more we could do in the community in terms of non-football and reaching out, and we started doing a bit of that through the mental health programmes that we were running at the club. But then when the pandemic came along, we saw ourselves very much as a club that could help. We had all the infrastructure and all the facilities and people here that could actually deliver some help. For us, it was a natural thing for us to do was to start to do something to help people out through the pandemic, people that were concerned and scared and didn't know what they were going to do, how they were going to go out and do shopping and just wanted to isolate away, and we had the skills that we could actually step in and help that. So community has always been what we're about, but in some ways the pandemic allowed us to demonstrate to the community just how much we thought of them, and in return, we saw that with the volunteers coming back, it was quite clear that the work we've been doing early on in the football sense meant that we had reached out to them and they were on board to help us to deliver what we were doing throughout that pandemic response. So because community is at our heart, I think it came a little bit easier for us because we actually, we walk the walk in terms of what we do in the community. But we also spend a bit of thought making sure that we do tell our story where we possibly can, that we do reach out, we do attend other groups and support other groups. We go into the schools and we talk about the community programmes, we talk about what we do in the football sense, but also a bit further than that and things we do in the community as well. So telling that story as well, I think it's quite important. So we do consciously try and go out there and talk about football as much as we can. We also talk about some of the problems in football as well, and I speak out quite often on some of the things that we could do in Scottish football to change things for the good. Pushing for change at that level is important to us, but we've got to do that by making sure that we're representing the community where we live as well. We've got our mission statement that we have for the club is a club with a community at its heart. And that's very much how we see ourselves, is that we see the community as fundamental to what we do, that we want to provide a service to the community. That will be for those that are really passionate about first team football. That will be Saturday football. It will be about following the guys on the pitch, your progression in the league, the highs and the lows that always brings. So that's one side of it. The other side of it as well, which is delivering programmes and being there and putting on things that you can do for young people to get involved in the club. We've partnered with the high school, we've partnered with the food bank, we've partnered with local councillors, we've partnered with local businesses, all to make sure we can keep delivering programmes within the community so people get their taste of football. But then there's deeper things like the mental health programme that we run, which is a referral-based system, so it's for people that have to be referred from the Forth Valley nurseries to get involved in the programme. And some of these people, you can talk about your heroes, you can talk about people that inspire you, and you can talk about footballers and things like that. These people inspire me because I've seen them talk in the past about not able to get past their front door because they're suffering from real acute mental health issues at that time, and they walk through that door and they can't get out. Now they're in a mental health programme playing here, and the training starts at maybe 12, 1 o'clock, and they've got their kit on at 9 o'clock in the morning, itching to get out, and they're on minibuses going to Ravenscraig to take part in tournaments, all because they're part of something. And they've got a camaraderie with people that are playing on the pitch in the mental health programme. So you do things like that, and I think that's what football does that maybe other things can't quite do. You can reach out to so many different parts of society. Football was suspended on the 13th of March, was when we got that notice came through from the Scottish FA saying, that's it, football is suspended because of the pandemic. You can't run any more football programmes, you can't play any more first team football, everything is just to stop. So there was that period of worry that we had when that instantly happened. And this was 10, 11 days before lockdown had happened, so people were still going about, but people were starting to perhaps think about isolating. I spoke to my own parents, a few weeks before lockdown, and said to them, you should maybe think about isolating, we'll do your shopping and things like that. Although it happened on the 13th of March, that night I had a conversation with the vice chairman of the club here, David Reid, who really has been instrumental in pushing a lot of the community work that we do and leads on a lot of that for us. So we spoke about we can be there for people, we can be there in the community. There are going to be people who are going to be scared and vulnerable. So we instantly decided in that first night, decided we could set up a helpline and we could start putting leaflets out and say to people, whatever you need, we can be here for you as a club. Give them some ideas about shopping and going for prescriptions and walking dogs and things that maybe didn't want to do because they were isolating. So it happened that night, and then by the next morning, we had leaflets on the printer getting printed, and we set up a brand new telephone helpline. You can do all that virtually online these days, a brand new number that was on the leaflets. We had some across at our local printers, and he was printing them for us free of charge as well. And within a couple of days, we had about 11 or 12,000 leaflets fully delivered throughout all the communities that surround the area. We asked for people who had time to volunteer to help us, and we asked for people that felt a bit vulnerable and couldn't get out, were a bit scared, needed help, to get in touch, and we'd help them. The first calls were people wanting to volunteer. Got the volunteers in, the phone calls started to arrive, people wanting help. We started pairing people up, and they were off making connections and doing shopping. Then we had lockdown, and then that's when the calls really started to come through. The council, lots of other organisations, they all closed down, so the council couldn't step in and help. So we started getting phone calls from social work department at the council saying, you guys are already set up, I've got somebody who needs help, it's in your area or even it's out with your area, can you help? So we became, you know, the main operator, if you like, in that space. Because we work in the schools with our football programmes, schools got in touch with us and said, can you provide any help? Before we knew it, we were delivering to around 8 different schools, delivering all the free school meals that people were entitled to. We got support from a local business providing some vans, we used our own vans and our own cars, and we just set about delivering all the free school meals. Delivered, you know, I think it's about 12,000 meals in the end. We then got our chef in, started providing hot meals free of charge to people that wanted some extra, you know, food and things like that. We got in touch with the local food bank, started delivering parcels for them, delivered thousands of food parcels. So you add that together with all the shopping trips that we're still doing to this day. Done a lot of work for a small football club in the central belt of Scotland. No doubt about it though, we were concerned about the future of the club. I think all football clubs were. Every income stream was cut off, so all the match day revenue, hospitality guests that usually come in and sit in the suites behind me, everything just dried up. But at that point, all our costs were still going out, so we still had all the wages to pay, all the finance you have on, you know, putting new facilities in, new pitches in, and all these things that you have. That all had to be paid. So it was really a concerning time for us, but we absolutely had to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture at that moment in time was, at the here and now, we can help people. We can go out in the community and help people. And as things develop through the pandemic, we see where it goes. We can spend the time we need to spend to make sure the club is absolutely looked after. Financially, I thought it was going to be absolutely, you know, the toughest thing probably the club had ever faced. But again, I was just confident that we had the infrastructure in place that we would be able to cope with. In some ways, maybe even just putting all our attention into the community work and making sure that, you know, we'll respond to people that need help during the pandemic. Maybe took our minds off the troubles of the football club a wee bit and the financial, you know, prospects. But as time went on, that work we're doing in the community paid dividends. So that led to a real positive upside for the club and people wanting to help out. And then finally, supporters who from day one just rallied to the cause. Supporters got in touch to say, this is my club, how can I help? What do you need? I live just 5 minutes from the club, and I had on 2 occasions people put through my door an envelope that had a day of their working wage. Here's a donation to the club for what you're doing in the community. I was writing columns in the Scotsman about what we're doing and about football in general. I had a chap who's a Dunfermline fan write to me who said, I'm a Dunfermline fan, but I love reading your columns in the Scotsman. Here's a small cheque towards the club, towards what you're doing in the community. So just had people writing to us and supporters from other clubs as well as their own, wanting to help out and support their club. So that gave us a huge amount of confidence because the supporters were not ready for their club to suffer because of the pandemic. And that gave us a lot of confidence that we would get through it. As soon as you said that, what are you most proud of the last year? The first thing that came out of my head was just the people. the volunteers that came into this club, some who had no association with the club whatsoever. Some responded because they wanted to help in the pandemic. Some were parents of kids that were in the community programme but hadn't really had any role in the club at all. Got in touch to say, yeah, I want to help, what can I do? So I'm proud of everybody that in a pandemic, when we all were thinking back, we were all genuinely apprehensive about where it was going to go, and as it got deeper and deeper into it, and we saw the numbers of infections and unfortunately the deaths, and we'll touch with that here as well. It just shows you what human faith is like. People were willing to come and help others throughout that whole pandemic. Do shopping for people they'd never met before. Didn't matter who they were. Yeah, I'll do the shopping. Didn't matter what their personal circumstances were or anything at all. None of that was ever a question for anybody. Somebody needs help. Yeah, we'll be there. So I'm proud of the people that stepped forward. Don't narrowly focus on the traditional football fan as you know it. There's other fans out there that just haven't yet made that connection, haven't yet fallen in love with the club. Younger kids might be besotted by a Messi type figure, or Ronaldo. And of course, we all are. We all love to see that type of player come along. But there's great local football goes on in local clubs. But you've got to be the one that reaches out to them and to tell them what goes on at your club. Let them come along. Let them start to see some great goals and be part of a club as well. Get on the pitch, meet players and play alongside them at times. When you can have some fun times in clubs and the players and some of the younger community teams. Get them working together, and then you'll find out those young kids will start to follow the local club. The parents will start to feel an affinity to the club, and everything you've put into that community, you'll get it back by some means, by having people coming along to your games, by wanting to support you and sponsor you, by wanting to get a season ticket. We had more season ticket sales last year. We didn't have a season to speak of than we had the year before when we did, because people wanted to do something to help us. So invest the time in your community and you'll get the payback. That would be my advice to any club.